Hello, welcome. Hope you're all doing well today. Excited for our webinar with this stellar lineup of presenters. We'll give everybody just a moment to load up into the room. We thank you for making time as always. We know you guys are busy and do appreciate your time and attention to the CII webinars. We also thank our member companies who bring their great content to this webinar series, and of course their invited guests. We do appreciate all of your time. Just to let you know that this group today will be conducting 2 polls, so those will go live during the session and you can engage by responding to those. And we also encourage you to submit questions using the panel, the little gray control panel box there. If you click on questions, you'll be able to submit those throughout the session. We'll take those at the end. We've saved some time. Without further ado, I'll introduce our friend Gareth Davis with Bechtel, and he will kick us off and introduce the team. And again, we'll see you at the tail end with questions. Thank you so much, Gareth.
Thank you, Jenny. Hello, everyone. My name is Gareth Davis. I'm the chair for the Horizon 360 subcommittee within CII's Technical Technology Committee. I have over 16 years of project experience in executing projects at Bechtel Energy. And for the last 3 years, I've been leading Bechtel Energy's innovational functional group that's responsible for solving all construction problems with new tools and work processes. Joining me today is my co-moderator, Marco Luizaga. Marco?
Close, got it, almost had it. Lusuriaga. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Gareth. My name is Marco Lusuriaga. I've been in the oil and gas industry for about 22 years, working both as a process and a project engineer. Previously, I was the digital innovation lead at another company where I developed a real-time physics-based construction digital twin, and I also ran pilot projects to implement new technologies. I also worked with a brilliant team of data scientists to custom build AI solutions to support our engineering teams. I'm an active member of the Horizon 360 subcommittee, and I'm happy to share with everyone that as of yesterday, I just joined the Genesis group over at Technique Energies. So that's a recent development in my career path. I'm excited to be here and to participate in this discussion. I look forward to it. So back to you, Gareth.
Awesome. So today we hope to bring you some insight into the transformative role of artificial intelligence in capturing and processing data from documents and its relevance to executing EPC projects. For our panel today, we have invited 2 solution providers that I have myself been engaged with. And today my co-host and I will be happy to discuss this topic with them. First off, we have Ajay Rerat, who is the Chief Technical Officer and co-founder of MidMesh, a company that was named the best powered EPC solutions provider by Corporate Vision Online magazine. In our discussions, we will hear how their solutions really is addressing some of the challenges that face EPC companies. Ajay?
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this wonderful discussion. Looking forward to this great discussion ahead. Too many attendees, really excited to share our thoughts about AI and this.
Hey, happy to have you, Ajay. Also with us is Andrew Bank, representing XSB. They have developed a remarkable interoperable engineering data platform called Swiss that makes it easy to navigate between internal and external engineering content and extract critical pieces of data. We will hear more about that in our discussion as well. I look forward to that as well. Welcome, Andrew.
So
sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Marco. Thanks for the invite.
Awesome.
Okay.
So let's start with Andrew. Andrew, please tell us a little bit about XSB and your solution, Swiss. What AI technologies are you using, and what are some of the challenges that are being addressed by it?
Yeah, thanks, Gareth. So Swiss is an acronym that's shown right here on screen. So the semantic web for interoperable specs and standards is quite a mouthful. You never have to remember this again. We just call it Swiss. So we're really addressing two core problems. One is that there is still far too much non-value add manual labor in modern engineering workflow, and that is costing companies time, money, and injecting too much risk into high stakes engineering projects. And we think that a lot of that cost, time, and money and risk is avoidable. And the second is that static drawings and documents are not machine readable, right? Most of them are in static, like PDF and other things. And that is an obstacle if we want AI and machines to enhance our work and improve our decision making, right? So, despite many years of digital transformation and migrating data into modern workflow applications, way too much of the underlying information, I'm trying to advance the slide here, there we go. Despite many years of digital transformation and migrating a lot of engineering data into modern workflow applications, way too much of the underlying engineering information is still maintained as static documents like PDF files. So we're talking about specs and standards, regulatory information, work instructions, even customer requirements are often transmitted as basic text PDF files, right? So inside those unstructured documents is this mountain of critical data that engineers need and others need to do their jobs and to make decisions, to take the next step in their workflow. But finding that data and extracting it and using it to make decisions really requires painstaking manual labor. In many cases, getting the data you need out of these drawings or documents means, it's still amazing to say this in the year 2024, but getting that data out of there often means copying and pasting or even manually rekeying the data. If you've ever had to translate a dense set of customer requirements into executable workflow tasks, you know that this takes too much time, costs too much money, and creates human-made errors. And AI could do a lot of this work, but not if the documents and drawings are stuck in non-machine readable formats. So as a solution, Swiss transforms static engineering drawings and documents into machine readable digital twin documents. You've probably all heard of the term digital twin. A digital twin is typically considered a virtual representation of the physical part. Well, a digital twin document is the same thing. It's a virtual representation of that document, and it pulls out all of the data that's relevant in that document. So what we do is we slice and dice the content into individual data elements, text, charts, tables, graphs, equations, references, requirements, values, and such. And then using AI and semantic analysis, we attribute meaning and context to these elements. Essentially, we sort of define what they mean, right? And then we map it all into a knowledge graph where we connect every piece of data to its related and dependent pieces of data. And finally, using the Swiss API, any of this data can then be integrated seamlessly into your enterprise applications like EPC systems, ALM, APM, ERP, things like that. So lastly, the shift from static documents to digital twin documents, it enables a whole world of new capabilities and advantages. And I'll just name a few. Number one, you can very quickly and accurately identify restricted materials like cadmium or high-risk parts or banned parts like electronics from a Chinese supplier. Second, since every piece of data is connected to related pieces of data, you can move seamlessly from one piece to another. For example, if your customer requirement references an ISO standard, you can click and go directly into the exact section of that ISO standard in the full text. And then lastly, requirements, pulling exact executable requirements out of a giant set of requirements or a customer package can be extracted and defined very, very precisely. So lots of advantages, and looking forward to talking more about it.
Wow, that's great. You said a lot of things there. I mean, it sounds like a lot. Really interested to hear about it. Especially a lot of the things you said, I could really relate to when, from my experience executing EPC projects, especially the part about these non-value add activities that we do. So great introduction there. So now we'll turn to AJ. So same question to you, AJ. Tell us a bit about Mint Mesh and your solution, Rudy, which AI technologies are being used, and the challenges that you guys are addressing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marco. So just to give an introduction about a company, Mint Mesh, based out of States of America, based in Detroit, and we are spread across multiple countries, including right. At the heart of what we do is a product called Rudy. Rudy is an acronym, or it stands for Reading and Understanding Documents for You. Right? So from the acronym itself, many people will be able to relate to what we're trying to do, right? The technology would help people to read documents and identify or fetch information that is relevant. Using this technology, we're trying to solve, or we are actually disrupting a process that has been in practice for the last 25 to 30 years, called as technical bid evaluation, right? So in the technical bid evaluation process, where engineers have to go through, sift through so many documents to finally identify a supplier or a vendor who's appropriate for the for supplying a particular material. Rudy helps the engineers to do that using artificial intelligence and engineering language processing as its core, right? We also do engineers not as a black box, but more from an explainable AI standpoint. The benefits that an engineer or an EPC, or for that matter, even the owner operator, derives out of Rudy is about 40% efficiency gain by making this whole exercise of technical bid evaluation going through a system right now. And we also, by the virtue of having all this unstructured data now being captured into a structured way, it automatically translates into a knowledge management system as well. We also understand that in this whole process, collaboration is extremely critical, right? So it's like, you know, you are talking, you have many vendors, many suppliers. Today, the process takes a very long time because you have to organize the data. Engineers spend a lot of time organizing the data rather than trying to make sense of the data that they've received from their suppliers, right? So collaboration is a key, and we extend the tool to have that collaboration also, right? By the virtue of, again, having everything under one roof, under one system, the collaboration, which is more of discussions between engineers, that also would eventually turn out to be a gold mine of in the future for decision making, right? As a company, as a product, we are an ISO and a SOC 2 Type 2 company, and another feather in the cap we received very recently is the best AI-powered EPC solution provider. We also work very closely with EIC, that is the Energy Industries Council, NASSCOM, and Aviva is a recent addition to one of the another partner company with us, right? So again, at Minmesh, we believe in creating solutions that simplify and elevate the EPC industry's work, replace the time-consuming work wherever possible, and enhance the efficiency of the engineering community. Right, so that's what we do, and looking forward to this discussion.
Awesome. So guys, in my research for this webinar, I found some interesting data related to trends in construction. As of October of this year, the US industry added about 8,000 jobs. However, despite this, due to this job growth, the industry still sees a significant amount of labor shortages, and a substantial portion of the US population, and in my information, it was about 1 in 5 workers are about 55 years or older. In addition to that, a lot of mid-year career workers are leaving their jobs for better opportunities in other sectors. As a result, the adoption of new technology like artificial intelligence and like digital twins, like Andrew mentioned, are becoming a lot more prevalent. And then we're seeing these solutions being deployed to address and managing supplier data, particularly those that are unstructured, monitoring quality, progress, and of course in knowledge management. So question to Ajay, starting with Ajay, where did the idea for these solutions come from? And what challenges were your customers facing that weren't being addressed by traditional methods and technologies?
Sure, Gareth. Right. So I would not say it is an idea, right? It's more of the necessity is the key to an idea, right? So when we started our journey in 2015, our first product was in the human resource domain, right? And as we traversed through the journey, we understood that we quickly realized that it was a very highly competitive space, right? With many players addressing the hiring challenges. So as we go through this journey, it prompted us to take a pivot, intelligence, right? definitely leveraging all the insights and the knowledge that we have from our first product to define clear principles around what we need to build in a product to become successful in an enterprise level, right? So as part of that discovery and initial stages, right, we were exploring many aspects of AI, right? The predictive AI, which we're talking about, the prescriptive AI, natural language processing, and things like that, right? And of all the 3 or 4 areas that we explored in our discovery journey during that stages, we chose natural language processing, recognizing the enormous amount of unstructured data within the enterprise that remains underutilized in decision making, right? Especially in the industry that we are serving to right now, which are highly capital asset based industries, where the potential for an artificial intelligence solution, right, to unlock the value of data is significant, right? Definitely the other, of course, the other learning that we had was also around the availability of existing solutions that is serving this purpose, right? So when we, and even today also, Gareth, there are not many players who have actually addressed this problem of technical bid evaluation in the way that we are doing. Okay. I would say we are the only company that is providing the solution in the technical bid evaluation space using artificial intelligence, right? So that became a focal area for us. So we kind of drilled it down to artificial intelligence, an area that we have to focus on, and a process that where we find that there are not many solution providers in the industry, right? So that's how we got into this product. Now, as we went through the journey, then we understood that natural language processing is an area that has always been existing. But then what we did was this realization led to the creation of what we're calling it right now as an engineering language processing, right? Designed to help engineers make the more efficient and accurate decisions when selecting technically compliant vendors, right? So introducing the ELP and artificial intelligence into the space or into this area actually had 2 challenges, right? The first is persuading customers to move beyond traditional tools like email, spreadsheet, and the second one is primarily the intensive process of reading, organizing, and archiving unstructured data. The people that we were talking to were so much used to this way of doing things for the last 25-30 years that they did not even find that as a problem, right? But anybody new coming into this industry today finds it extremely difficult to adapt to the traditional way of doing things, right? So this was definitely a sweet spot for us to explore how we can help engineering companies exploit the value of data that is there. And that's how we started developing this tool. Yeah.
Awesome. Andrew, same question to you.
So there were a bunch of challenges that come up frequently in conversation. I'll just mention a couple. Manual labor, right? Like I said it before, it probably won't be the last time I say it on this webinar. The Department of Defense was actually the biggest, the biggest champion, the biggest investor in Swiss initially, because as you can imagine, the DoD, the U.S. Department of Defense, they have, like AJ said, they've been doing manual labor for 30-40 years and not thinking much of it. They just do it, right? But they finally got to the point where they said, okay, there's just too much information. We need to speed up time. We need to speed up readiness. So there's this constant increase in the volume and sources of information that, workers have to process, right, to make decisions. And at the same time, there's constant pressure to do things faster and cheaper while maintaining quality, safety, and performance. And that's just not possible without throwing an army of people at the problem or by using AI. So the other thing I'll mention is that, older workers are retiring or moving to other companies. That has become a serious challenge, right? These experienced workers have huge amounts of individual knowledge that the company relies on to make good decisions. But once those workers are gone, much of the knowledge goes with them, right? And so younger workers are kind of out in the cold, not knowledgeless, they're also smart, but the experience and the wisdom of age and many projects under the belt kind of goes away. So companies need to transform that individual knowledge into institutional knowledge so that it's harvested and stored for anyone who comes after.
That makes a lot of sense. Something you said there, really resonates with me. Especially the part about when knowledge leaves a company, right? And to Gareth's point earlier, he was talking about talented people going to another sector. I know a lot of very talented people, very smart people that are in different industries other than the oil and gas industry that are very talented and very smart. And if you give them the right information, they can make good decisions. The problem is when they come into this industry. I've worked with a few that came from a different industry into this industry, and they don't know how things work, where to find information, that sort of thing. So what you guys are describing, it sounds like the kind of thing that we need to be able to work smarter rather than harder, right? Get the people the information they need to be able to make the decision. So it's that's really exciting to hear, and something that I'd like to see a lot more of coming out of this out of the AI industry. So, but Andrew, I want to go back to a previous discussion that we had the other day, where you mentioned that XSB is API first, right? So that was a new term to me. I've never heard that. I know what an API is, but can you explain to me and our audience what that means when you say API first and why that's a good thing?
Yeah, so just to clarify, XSB is the company, and Swiss, the long acronym, Swiss is the actual product. So just to clarify, yeah, so we transform these drawings and documents into digital twin documents, into machine readable data, and then we store it in a knowledge graph, and then using the Swiss API, it can then be transferred to anything else. So we're very much API first. So API, backing up 2 steps, API stands for Application Programming Interface. Again, probably never have to remember that again. People just call them APIs. And an API it's a very flexible piece of software that enables 2 different systems to talk to each other in ways that are very dynamic and based on whatever rules or workflows you put in place, right? So you don't have to bend to their rules. You can use an API and kind of bring the data in any way you want. And most modern platforms, EPC systems, ALM, APM, most of them are API friendly. So for example, if you wanted to transform, this is why it's good for organizations. For example, if you wanted to transform a bunch of drawings and documents into digital model, digital twin documents, and identify restricted materials, you could do that, like let's say on the Swiss platform, and then through the API, you could bring that data directly into your design system so that engineers are aware of those risks, those restricted materials or restricted parts. And after you set it up the first time, it's automated and can update in real time. The big difference between something that's API first and maybe other platforms is because a lot of the software that organizations purchase, it forces you to do a complex installation, learn an entirely new system, and essentially bend your way of work to their rules, right? Swiss is API first, meaning that you can take any of the data in the Swiss knowledge graph and bring it into any other application, and that data fits seamlessly into your existing workflow, right? So rather than bend to our rules, the API bends to your rules and your way of doing work. So you don't have to leave the systems you're in. You can just bring that critical data right into the right time and place, right where it is that you need it.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Awesome. Ajay, you had mentioned artificial intelligence, engineering, languaging, processing earlier. Can you compare that to some of the other terms that we typically hear in the AI space, such as natural language processing or optical character recognition? And maybe you can highlight the differences and similarities and how your solution specifically takes advantage of all these different technologies.
Sure, Gareth. That's a very interesting question, right? So engineering language processing, or what we call as ELP, that's in a way a proprietary language model that we have created within Mint. Essentially, you can consider it as a subset of or a specialized area within NLP, focused on building training models to understand the engineering specific language. Typically, what we have seen in most of the documents that the industries that deal with, that we are serving to, this engineering language blends with the natural language, right? So So it is not just about me understanding the natural language, that is, questions like is, was, how are they connected, how are the sentences connected, and things like that. But we need to also have a model to understand the engineering terminologies, which is kind of blended within the natural language, right? So that's how I call engineering language processing as, right? And we have an engine which can process that based upon a lot of training that we are providing. Your question about what is an OCR, Gareth, OCR basically, it is nothing but what it stands for is optical character recognition, right? Like what saying there are so many acronyms these days that you might want to forget it, right? But end of the day, OCR is a technology that identifies and extracts text from images, scanned documents, or photos, right? However, OCR lacks the ability to understand context, right? It doesn't have any training or anything of that sort given to understand the context, which essentially means that it lacks intelligence, right? It's a wonderful tool to extract data, provided the structure of the document is fixed or the format of the document is fixed, right? And also to a very large extent if the layout is known, right? Specific data using if you want to extract specific data from such kind of documents, OCR is a wonderful technology. It can help, it can serve the purpose. A good example of that we have seen where OCR as a technology is employed in a big way is, if there is an invoice and I want to extract the shipping address, if the format is fixed, it is very, very easy for OCR to do that, and it's very, very cheap as well, right? But OCR, the availability of or technologies like OCR was getting redundant because of the fact that the structure, the format, the way the language is expressed, they are all going to be completely, it's very, very person dependent, very, very organization dependent. OCR was not able to cater to such demands, right? And that's where this new technology called large language model processing, or LLMs. I'm sure you would have started hearing about this word called large language models. This is the in thing now, right? No, so essentially what it means is you have a transformer-based model, right, capable of understanding and generating language intelligently, right? How it does this? It is able to do it because it has been trained on large amount of data, right, which is available in the World Wide Web today, right? So these models are powerful due to the capacity to process sequential data and recognize contextual relationship across very, very large text, right, making them suitable for complex language tasks. Essentially what we're saying there is, if I give a document and I'm able to converse with that document, right, and ask questions of that document. So when you ask the questions of the document, this model is able to kind of translate this question and understand what is meant by the user or anybody who's using the question, and then extract the relevant information from the document. So that's how these are all being different. OCR and engineering language processing is completely different from OCR, and LLM is even better than what we are doing as an ELP, right? So so as we are able to utilize all these technologies in the right way, the output of each of the efforts that we're doing would be better.
Andrew?
Yeah, I'll just add one quick thing to that, which is that most AI is trained on pretty common data. It's given, like AJ said, it's given it's given everything on the web, but there's not a lot of specialized domains, domain information in what they get trained on, right? And so very few LLMs are trained in those specialized domains that EPC companies would need, like chemical processes and materials and construction equipment and things like that. But when you train your AI with specialized data, the AI it becomes context aware, right? And it can begin to make inferences that humans and more common AI cannot. I'll give you just one example. We play a lot in aerospace and defense and parts and materials, and cadmium comes in quite a bit. So if for example, if the AI, or if a requirement references a spec I happen to know this one, QQP416, right? Common AI might just OCR this, or common OCR might just identify that and say, oh, there's a reference to, in this document, there's a reference to QQP416. But if you've been trained, if the AI has been trained like Swiss has on a library of specs and standards and parts and materials and processes, then Swiss AI knows that QQP416 is actually a cadmium plating standard. So the inference that it can make is that, hey, wait a second, red alarm, there's cadmium involved in this process. So when you train your, and also when you bring other information into the, you can bring internal information into your training as well. You can bring, you know, Bechtel information or technique information or customer information into your training. So it has the, it's again, it's kind of going from individual knowledge to institutional knowledge, right? It's bringing in all the institutional knowledge that you've accumulated, and it's using all that knowledge to help the AI make inferences and help you enhance decision making.
That's great. And you know, something that you said in a previous discussion, and AJ touched on it a little bit just earlier, that makes a lot of sense is, you know, talking about asking questions of your documents, right? You know, right now we search documents for keywords and things like that, but you can't ask it a question like you would a person. And so you know, bringing that ability to ask your documents questions is, you know, that's great. That's a real time saver.
Yeah.
So yeah. So now we're going to do a poll question. Okay, we're going to take a little break from the discussion to ask the audience a poll. I'm going to pull it up here, and you'll see it on your screen here in a second. All right. We would like to take a poll to learn about from the audience, what are some ways AI is being used in your organization to enhance productivity, reduce cost, and improve safety. So the choices are construction planning and scheduling, knowledge management, quality control, risk and safety management, design optimization, or other. And we don't have a way for you to enter your custom response for others. So if you want to share that in the chat, you can. Feel free to put your comments in the chat so that we can include those as well. And so we'll do this poll very quickly. Give it another, let's see how long it's going to have, another 15 seconds, and then we will take a look at some of the results.
It was interesting at the start of the poll, we saw a lot of folks enter knowledge management, and I still think that's probably the biggest use case for AI that we're seeing right now.
Right, spoiler alert. All right, so let's stop the poll. Hope everyone had a chance to vote. I see we got a good participation, 54% of people voted. So let's take a look here at the results. Let's see, here we go. So it looks like, yes, you're right. Knowledge management, 50%, and then followed by construction planning and then quality control, almost the same amount, 30% and 29% for each of those. Then, oh, sorry, other was 37. So we'll take a look here at the chat, see if anybody posted anything. I don't see it. Maybe you can see it, Gareth, but design optimization was 24%. So somehow these don't add up to 100%, so we'll have to ask Jenny about how this works. But I think very, very revealing. I think knowledge management is, you know, a lot of what we've been discussing is about knowledge management. So what do you think, Ajay, Andrew, any thoughts on this?
Well,
right now, go ahead, Andrew. Please go ahead.
I was going to say, Marco, if you're looking in the chat for questions, I don't see any there either. But there's a separate area that says questions on the control panel. So there are a bunch of questions in there.
Right.
My thought about this is that, I mean, one interesting thing is that it's being used pretty overwhelmingly for knowledge management over the other things, which makes sense because one of the current risks or the obstacles is kind of faith and belief and the accuracy of AI. You know, knowledge management is a good way to, you know, you can organize documents, you can, you know, better search, you know, there's always better search and things like that. But using AI in quality control, risk and safety management, you know, for a lot of companies, they're not quite there yet conceptually, or sort of stomach-wise because they feel that maybe there's too much risk. There's potentially too much risk involved. So I'm not surprised that knowledge management is the biggest thing there.
Yeah, I want to give some context to some of the others that we got. So some people had entered other as not at all or not yet, meaning that they're yet to use AI in how they deliver EPC projects. Some mentioned RFP review, which is a common use case that we're also exploring here at Bechtel. Human resources is another one that we're starting to see as well. Proposal development as well, RFP to analyze our different proposals that we either review or we need to prepare for our clients. So those are really great use cases of AI that I think we're seeing expanding in the EPC organization. Any comments on that, Ajay?
So I think that the results are pretty clear, right? So the first step of any technology, any disrupting technology is to enhance, and I mean that's where it comes, right? So how do you manage the information that you have within your enterprise to enhance the decision making? And that, I think that's where everybody is taking the step in the right direction, right? Once you have this information gathered, I think everything else will fall in place, right? So you have more information extracted out of all this humongous amount of data that sits in an organization, which can be used for multiple places, right? Today's problem is a lot of this information is lying in the head of an individual, right? And just to add to what Andrew was saying, right? If you're able to translate and transform that information from an individual level to an institutional level, then it starts making a lot of value to the organization. And even though we're calling it as knowledge management, end of the day, what we're doing there is knowledge gathered from all these sources of information that is lying out there, and then utilizing it for multiple areas like construction planning, quality control, or design optimization. I think that's where this is all translating in.
Okay, great. That's a great poll. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next question. So I have a question, and it has to do with my recent experience. I've seen a lot of desire to take advantage of these new technologies like AI, but it seems that those desires are often met with they're met equally with challenges that can slow down the process for adoption and sometimes even stall it indefinitely. And some of the challenges I've seen been justifying the cost. There's often not enough hard data to justify and back up the claims of ROI. I was happy to see that you guys had some numbers you presented earlier on productivity and that sort, and I'd like to see more of those numbers. Another challenge is integrating with existing work processes. This is always really important because organizations need to understand how a new technology will fit into their greater digital landscape. And then probably the biggest concern we've already touched on is cybersecurity. So on the topic of cybersecurity, this is something I've always wondered, is that we'll go to Andrew first. If you can talk a little bit about that and maybe give us some insight on what additional or new threats present themselves when adopting AI technology that weren't present in the technology that we use on projects today, and then maybe some things that we can do to address this. And maybe if you have some insight to some other concerns that you've heard of from the companies that you've worked with, if you could share those as well.
Yeah. So ROI and cyber and IP are the three things that I'll mention. Not necessarily in that order. In terms of IP, I mean, I think IP is a concern. It is a big concern. Although, in my opinion, companies should actually be more concerned than they are, than I've seen them be. A lot of companies put their proprietary data into ChatGPT or any of the other high-flying LLMs. That's quite a risk because you really don't know where that data is going to end up. So the companies that we work with, they're not using ChatGPT or anything like that. They're using Swiss, and we don't use anything like that at all. We use, our Swiss is homegrown. It's based on, something, sort of an open LLM, but it's installed on a firewalled system inside the company, or it's in a FedRAMP approved data center on AWS or Azure. So, using like public LLMs, I'd be very wary of that. That's one sort of obstacle. Another one that I hear is a company becoming too reliant on the AI and removing humans from the loop. But I mean, in my view, this is completely under your control, right? That you don't have to let AI run wild and make all the decisions. You do have to be pretty clear-eyed about the reality, right? The AI isn't going to replace humans, but the purpose is to enhance their decision-making, and it can manage lower level, lower risk decisions so that humans can focus on more value-added work, right? There are decisions that you can give to AI, and there are decisions that you still want humans to manage themselves. And the last thing I mentioned is ROI. Yeah, I mean, ROI is a consistent concern no matter what it is, whether it's AI or whether it's, building a new building or buying a new car, whatever it is. In this case, I would say you got to take baby steps. There is concrete value to be had here. Don't just let a solution provider make claims on their website or even in conversations without proving them, right? So do small experiments, proofs of concept, benchmark it for accuracy against what a human would find. Benchmark the ROI, like any solution, compare the future state with AI versus the status quo and make your best guess as to whether it's going to produce the outcomes you want. So it's similar obstacles to buying any other product. I think if you do your due diligence, you'll be successful.
All right, thanks. Jay, what about you? What kind of concerns are you seeing?
Yeah, so the people that we sell into, Marco, trust is a significant challenge that we heard from the user community, right? Today also, no artificial intelligence system is 100% accurate, right? So whenever there is a doubt in the accuracy of even if it dips by a percentage, for example, right, it often raises doubts among the users regarding the data, right, that they are seeing on the screen or they're seeing as an output from the AI, right? So trust is definitely a challenge. The other challenge that we are seeing is that perception that anybody, when they hear about AI or when the users hear about AI, is that it can handle everything autonomously, right? And there is no manual intervention or anywhere in the human in the loop. I mean, there should not be any people in the loop, right? But this, according to me, is a big misconception, right? We cannot expect an AI platform to fully replicate the reasoning abilities and the judgment that a human brain does, right? Only whatever human can do, only human can do, right? End of the day, that misconception is a big challenge, right? So whenever we are going and talking to people about artificial intelligence, then and an AI can solve a particular problem, immediately the first response that we get them back is, okay, now do I have to do anything here, right? So that's a big challenge that we have to overcome as far as introducing AI-based systems are concerned. Now, to add to what cybersecurity things are concerned, right? AI definitely introduces new risks because what we are saying there is AI is always augmenting a decision making, right? So the new risk in such situations is hallucination. People can that can arise from the output of an AI model, right? The second is in the industry we call that as data poisoning. So somebody can actually influence the output from an AI if it is not 100% secure, correct? So then nobody will know because it is introducing or it is ingesting a lot of data, and the outcome can actually be wrong as far as AI models concerned, right? So these are the two new things that I've learned when we are introducing AI from a cybersecurity standpoint, which is one is the hallucination part of it, and the second one is the data parsing part of it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like to me that it comes down to expectations, right? Some people might have unrealistic expectations on both on the upside and the downside. So it's that can only be addressed by having a deeper understanding of the technology that's being applied. And I've always been a strong supporter of lifelong learning, right? Which is something that the New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman mentioned would be essential to adapting to these new technologies. Speaking of Thomas Friedman, he wrote an article in 2017 about something that we call the pacing problem now. And that is the idea that technology is advancing faster than humans can adapt and faster than governments can respond with regulation. And so that was nearly 8 years ago, and I think a lot has happened since then. But I still see the possibility of companies, having a similar problem when it comes to, adopting new technologies, especially the larger organizations in this industry. So the question I have for you guys, for companies that are just starting their AI journey, what key challenges are they facing when it comes to adoption that can be viewed as something similar to the pacing problem? And do you have any suggestions or recommendations to help them overcome these challenges associated with being able to adapt to the new technologies? Jay, why don't you start?
Sure, Andrew. So it's an interesting question, right? So the pacing problem in my thought, right, can be compared to the introduction of the new iPhone models, right? The way they introduce the models these days, every other 6 months we have a new model, right? So it is definitely exciting to have new features. Definitely, the advancements that we can achieve as a human being by adopting these new features is really, really exciting. But they also create a lot of challenges related to adaptations, right? So every 6 months, you're basically saying that a technology is obsolete, right? For humans to adapt to that expectation and changes in the market, it is extremely going to be difficult, right? We can compare that to a real life example, right? So there are so many instances where people would be talking to us about a technology and we would not have even heard of it, right? And this is specifically because it is constantly changing, right? So is facing a problem to the industry that we are serving to, Marco. I think it is a lot less because of the nature of the business is like that, right? The industry is a little slow in adopting new changes and new technology. It waits for its maturity to happen. So we have not faced that pacing problem challenge in the industry that we are serving. Okay. Right. But the most effective strategy, I would say, is to implement technologies in areas with less impact initially, scale them gradually. Baby steps is definitely the key way to go. Is the right way to go. Even though technology evolves at a very rapid pace, we need to understand the fact that humans often find it very difficult to keep up, right? So if enterprises do not carefully plan for the adoption challenges and the adaptation challenges, that we might not realize the expected ROI for the investment that we make.
Right. Yeah. And I realize now that probably the companies that you guys, Andrew and Jay, are engaging are not dealing with a pacing problem. The fact that they're engaging you at this stage is probably means that they've overcome that, and that's why they're engaging you. So maybe I'm thinking of companies that you haven't ran into yet, haven't contacted you. Maybe so I can't really ask them because they haven't contacted you. So Andrew, what about you? What do you see here is the challenge with pacing?
You're being very generous to the companies that we work with. You're making them sound like they are, on the edge of, the cutting edge of AI or using AI. They're not always. I mean, they too went into some of these engagements very, with cautious optimism and a healthy dose of skepticism. But I mean, the fact is that in terms of, adopting it, you don't have to adopt it fully into your DNA. Your company's DNA in order to make an impact, right? I mean, you can just focus. There's so much low-hanging fruit. You can just focus on you ask yourself a few specific questions. Where do your users do the most manual labor, right? Where are the majority of your delays? Where do you make the most errors? And where do you have to do the most rework, right? Where are you doing the most repetitive or duplicative work so you can train an AI to do some of those things, right? So there is, like you don't have to adapt it completely, but there is a lot of low-hanging fruit. I think taking that it's like static friction versus rolling friction, right? Static friction is much greater, much tougher. So if you just start moving slowly, no matter how slowly, just start moving towards it, I think you're gonna, some companies will move more quickly, some will accelerate more slowly. But I think if you take move from static friction to rolling friction, I think that those companies will see some impact.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to say that, in my regular day job that I'm a evangelical for new technologies like this because and just like you guys both mentioned, it really starts with, building up a set of believers in the technology. So you start with, small prototypes, just studying up a specific problem statement, and then you scale from there by doing wider proof of concepts. And then finally, once you get, a team of people that believe in the technology, then you can, scale it and adopt it. And it's really crucial that we undertake that in our organization. Whenever we introduce any new technology, it's always faced with a lot of skepticism, especially in an old traditional industry like construction. So really well said by both of you guys.
Hey, Gareth, one quick thing. Somebody put in the questions, not a question, but it was a comment, great comment. They said, AI will not replace people. People who use AI will replace people who don't use AI. I thought that's very, very smart.
I did see that, and I chuckled at it as well because I think that's a well-stated place of where the industry is going. And so on that note, I think we have a good segue to my next question. So what's on the horizon for artificial intelligence in data capture and processing? And how might that change how we execute industrial projects over the next 5 to 10 years?
Great question, right? So the future is in that, Gareth, right? And I don't have any doubt in my mind that if we are able to, if any technology, right? We call that as artificial intelligence today. If we are able to have a technology that helps human beings to make right decisions, informed decisions, that is right. And whatever we have seen and how technology has evolved in the last 3 to 4 years with many things coming in the picture in the limelight, right? Now AI in data capture, I'm telling you, Gareth, it is going to basically about 55% of the data. That's what one of the large megaforce studies says, right? About 55% of the data that we have today is what they're calling as dark data, correct? So this dark data actually is untapped. It is lying in documents which can only be read by humans, right? And nobody is able to refer or utilize that data. So AI, artificial intelligence in data capture with the contextual understanding, with the domain understanding, I think if we are able to capitalize on that, I'm sure we would be able to make, as humans, we would be able to make better decisions, informed decisions, and right decisions, right? Which is more effective and more productive as well. So that's how I would look at it. How AI is going to change the way projects are going to be done, right? So all the scheduled risks and the cost overruns that we're seeing in the industry, that and to me it is a lot dependent on where by which we are not able to tap into the old data.
Yeah. Andrew?
Well, it's like the 4th time that I've said it, but what's on the horizon? Less manual labor. There's so much low-hanging fruit around manual labor. The other 2 things I'll mention really quickly are automated decision making. I hinted at this before, but in order to embark upon automated decision making, you have to have machine readable content, whether it's drawings or documents or whatever it might be, machine readable content that enables machines to automate decision making, right? And then those automated decisions will be handed down to humans who are in the loop to then take the actions, right? So it's not fully automating decision making, but it's really giving the humans the exact information they need and potentially a recommendation as to what actions they should take. The next step after that, I think, is machine controllable content, which will enable machines to take those actions themselves based on the machine's decisions, right? So I wouldn't say taking a human, well, in those cases, the human is mostly out of the loop. Again, you would probably use automated machine actions based on their decisions. You'd probably do those at first, at least with lower risk, easier decisions, lower risk decision-making processes and things like that. So automated decision-making and then automated actions based on machines making decision. That's what I think is on the horizon.
Right. That looks exciting. It sounds exciting. Okay, so we got 5 minutes left here, and we do have one more poll question that we wanted to share with everybody. We wanted to know what concerns or considerations do you think are preventing wider adoption of AI for document processing on EPC projects? And so just quickly fill in your answer there, and we'll just make this a short poll because there's some questions that I see here from the audience. There's some good ones. I know, Gareth, you've also been looking. If any one of those stands out to you, feel free to point it out. There's some here. The first question that popped up earlier during the webinar was about how long it takes to convert a project with 10,000 documents into actionable intelligence. And having worked on projects, large EPC projects, I know that 10,000 sounds like a lot, but I've worked on projects that could be 50,000 documents when you include vendor documents, contractors, and all that stuff. So so for Andrew, when you're implementing this solution, you have 10,000 documents. How long does that take before you can now start getting your insights from that?
Yeah, there's sort of a setup period where we call it building the transform model, and the way I would describe with the time that we have left, I won't go into the analogies I was going to say, but essentially, sure. Once you do the training and once the AI has learned the style and the tenor of those documents, it can then transform those documents quite quickly. Right now we're doing drawing notes and documents themselves. Obviously, it depends on the length of the documents and things like that, but it's about 2 minutes per document, so it's quite fast. Okay. It also depends on what do you want to pull out of the documents? Do you want to pull out just the references? Do you want to pull out all the requirements? Do you want to pull out all the materials and processes and things like that? So we get requests all the time from clients. Hey, you're doing a great job with this. Can you also pull out this data and make inferences on this? So we're in the Wild West right now, and so it's really expanding rapidly.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm looking at the poll responses, and I see, most of the concerns were data privacy and security and accuracy and reliability, and I think that's probably about right. The one question I wanted to offer up to the team here is, do you foresee any changes in the commercial terms and conditions based on risk using artificial intelligence in EPC or design processes?
That's commercial terms and conditions. I mean, the way that lawyers are. Yeah, I mean, the way the procurement and legal counsels are at companies, and if there are any lawyers on the webinar, they would probably confirm this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who can shoulder that. I'm not a lawyer or a procurement person, so the question is, who will shoulder that liability? Will suppliers say to their clients, hey, as is, take as is, we're not responsible? Or will the clients say, hey, anything that you do, any decisions you take based on AI, you shoulder part of the responsibility? Don't know. I think it's too early to tell at this point.
Yep.
And,
all right, guys.
Just to add to that, right, it's always about augmenting a decision making. It's never about an AI system making the decision on behalf of an individual, right? So, I mean, it's high risk, high value. I wouldn't go down that path of not having human make that decision, but right, let them augment the decision making.
Yep. So I think we are at time, but I want to thank the folks that attended this webinar for their attendance. I hope that you guys took away some good information from the webinar. I want to thank our panelists for volunteering to, prepare this webinar for you guys as well as participate. I felt this was very knowledgeable. It's a lot of great information, especially for folks who are, just, interested, or like I call them hackers in the AI space. So I think this was a really good set of information for those folks. Again, I want to also thank for all the folks that have participated in the webinars that the H360 committee have put out this year. And this is our last one for this year, and I hope to see you guys participate in future webinars that we produce as well. So thank you guys. Have a good vacation, and I hope to see you all next year. Take care.
Okay. Thanks, Gareth. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
We'll
Bye-bye.
talk later.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, we lost Gareth.
Yes, he left. It's okay. I'll go ahead and end it now. I don't see Jenny back, so I'll go ahead and end it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Good to talk to you guys.
Bye-bye.